What's goody, y'all? I'm gonna wait until a couple people pop in here. Nah, I mean, let's see. Switch tip. What's goody? It's your boy Tony Sway. Who's on YouTube right now? I'm gonna wait to get into the topic at hand, but if you are starting to tune in, let's get these numbers up. Make sure you guys like the video. If you guys like these live streams that I do, make sure you add a like to it so other subscribers will see it, because on YouTube, I'm close to 60,000 subscribers, but everybody doesn't get notified. So in order for everybody to get notified, you got to like the video. You know what I mean? So everybody can have a fair shot at seeing it. But pretty much today's topic, if you see the header, is why famous musicians are a target. And so what that means is, if you're successful, if you're like a successful musician, like a Chris Brown, a Trey Songz, a Drake, a Kendrick Lamar, anybody who's on a high level like that, you essentially have a target on your back, because people see you as a way to come up. They see you as a way to get money. You know what I mean? So if you get in trouble, or if you don't even have to get in trouble, people can essentially make false claims on you, right? And then literally sue you for something that you haven't even did, right? So I'm thinking heavy, obviously, about the Chris Brown case in the media out in the UK. If you guys been paying attention to like R&B music news, you know that Chris Brown's, he's being held in a Manchester jail out in the UK for an incident that supposedly happened in 2023. Again, he's innocent until proven guilty. But what I'm going to say is, I've been noticing this for a while, and you guys should notice this as well at this point, that people like Chris Brown are a target, right? Of course, people are going to bring up his past, but that's also the problem as well, is people can always reference something, that he was involved in way in his past, and use that as an excuse to sue him for something that he may or may have not done, right? So, I do think me personally, I do think it's funny that if somebody got beat up, why do they need $16 million? I mean, I don't know about you guys, but to me, that just seems a little crazy. Like, if I got in a fight with somebody and it was, and if unfortunately I got knocked out, I'm going to take that. I'm going to say, you know what, that was an L. You know what I mean? Why would you try to come up on 10, 15, $16 million? That's the part that raises a red flag, because that's what makes somebody like Breezy a target, right? Because who's to say that guy didn't set it up in such a way so maybe he wanted Chris Brown to knock him out so he could sue him. You don't understand how desperate people can be for money. It's that bad. You know what I mean? And if you're hungry on money, and you see a successful person who's got M's, they're worth millions, that's for people that don't have a lot of integrity, they're gonna try to find a way to finesse. There's people out there trying to finesse a Chris Brown, so he always has to look over his shoulder, right? And not just Chris Brown, but other celebrities. There's people trying to finesse other famous musicians on the regular basis, because people want to make a come up. They're trying to get paid, right? They're trying to get money off of people. And what better way to get money than from people who got it? Because, how many poor people are getting sued, right? Like, I'm sure it happens, but people who don't have anything are probably less likely to get sued, because you're not going to get anything out of them. If you got 25 cents in your bank, there's not much they can take, not that's not a laughing matter either. I'm not putting, whether, no matter where you are on the economic ladder, you know what I mean? Shout out to everybody. But what I'm saying is that the people that will do anything for money, right? And they'll take advantage of like somebody like a Chris Brown and say, hey, this is an opportunity where I can get money. You know what? I'm gonna go say, I'm gonna talk some smack. I'm gonna say something. I'm gonna threaten him, and I'm gonna take a blow. I'm gonna take a blow on the chin, and then I'm gonna come up on some money, right? How many people do that kind of stuff? There's people that do that kind of stuff all the time. Because I mean, what is it? You know what I mean? Like how hard is it to, get socked up a little bit if you're going to get paid? I guess this is more of, some people could say what I think is, it's questionable, but if you really think about it, think about how many, think about if you knew that you could get a couple $1,000,000 out of somebody. All you have to do is, get them to get you in, get in a fight with them, or even file a false claim, right? You can even file a false claim or a false claim and say that person's did something. You know what I mean? So it's a dirty game out there. And you know what I mean? Musicians, especially if you got, some success, you got a target on your back. So all my musicians out there, just be aware of that, that people are looking for ways to come up, get money off of you. People are looking for ways to finesse you. And just always be aware, you know what I mean? Because some people ain't got nothing to lose, man. Some people ain't got nothing to lose, and they see you as a come up. And so, you know what I mean? That would just be my advice to, anybody on the rise, in general. But, I speak on music because I'm in this game. So it makes more sense to me to speak on something that I'm a part of. And, even with me, I'm always trying to stay low key. I mean, what, on YouTube, if you got 60, 100K to 100K subscribers, it's like what, D-list celebrity or Z-list celebrity. But I have a couple people that recognize me sometimes when I go places, and I'll show love and that kind of stuff. And I don't even be seeing myself on that level, you know what I mean? But when you put your image out there, you could especially if you're online, people could always recognize you, even if you are on a, even if you're on a smaller level, like, I'm just, for me, I got a couple million 70 million hits, I guess, is not small. So, but it's spread out the course of the last, 15 years though. So, but hey, yeah, so there's some people out there that will recognize you, but yeah, man. So does it look like too much people are in here today? Usually I got a pretty crazy chat. So I guess some of you guys are going to see this on the replay. I'm not going to be on here too long, but yeah. So let me know what you guys think on the replay. Since ain't nobody on the chat right now, that's kind of odd, but I guess it's a Sunday. Usually the chat's pretty booming. But yeah, man, I think that when you got some success, you got a target on your back, and you have to be extra careful not to get in any kind of situation where people can sue you. But sometimes people are still going to come off rip and sue you anyways, even if it didn't happen. You'll get lawsuits and different things. A lot of times they'll be completely false, just because people are just trying to come up on money, man. Desperate times, desperate measures. Desperate times calls for desperate measures, and we all know that. You know what I mean? Especially in this world. You know what I mean? So yeah. But I'm gonna kind of breeze over this subject. I guess most people are not famous. Most people are not Chris Brown. So I guess it's kind of hard to relate to that. But I think in the media, it's easy to think people are always guilty, but you got to know behind the scenes. Sometimes people are just trying to come up off of celebrities, and that unfortunately that's an unfortunate truth. And sometimes celebrities are obviously going to be guilty as well, but a lot of the times people are trying to come up off these people because they got M's. You know what I mean? They're worth millions of dollars, and that's a quick come up to somebody that don't got much, right? So, but I'm gonna breeze right over to the next subject. So another thing I wanted to talk about is this the end of the pop star? Is this the end of the super popular musician? The era where for a long time we had musicians that would blow up on a high level, like whether it be, obviously Michael Jackson is going to be the best example. Michael Jackson, Chris Brown is mentioned, the Justin Timberlakes, Janet Jacksons, the Britney Spears, if you will, just anybody on who's made it to like that super high status as a musician where everybody knows who they are. Are we coming to an end of that era? I mean, really, the last superstar musician that's still going is like Drake, right? He's still on that run, and Kendrick Lamar is doing it as well. But those guys have been out for a while. I mean, these guys have been out for a while now. I mean, these guys are close to where I'm at in age, So I won't say my age, y'all, because I'm a little embarrassed. But yeah, these guys are close to my age. They've been out. They've been doing it since what, 2000? Drake since what, 2008, 2009 is when he took off. Kendrick took off around 2010, 2011, right? Somewhere around there. So these guys have already been doing it for a while. But when's the last time we had a major superstar? Hey, Jamie, how are you? What's good? What's the last time we had like a major superstar musician just take off into the stratosphere and really just blow up? Can any of you guys think of anybody that's just like really blown up besides a Drake, besides a Kendrick, besides a Chris Brown? Who is the last really, big musician to really pop off like that? Because I can't think of anybody but them. I mean, there's a lot of people hitting like a hit single, maybe a hit, one hit, two hits here and there. But how many people are actually reaching that superstar status where they're on the front cover of magazines all the time? Everybody knows who they are. They're on every show, every podcast. Podcasts now, because podcasts are bigger than a lot of these TV shows. But who's the last person to really pop off like that on that level? And I can't think of anybody else but the people that I mentioned. So I would, I hate to say that it might be the end of that era, but I believe it's the end of the music superstar, and it's the rise of the social media influencer streamer. So it's the streamers. It's like, the people like the Kai Kanak type people like that, and social media influencers that are basically the new rock stars in a way. Even if they don't do music, these guys are like the new level of superstardom. And some of them do music, right? So you combine that together, they're like these multifaceted, multi-talented social media influencer people that can do a wide variety of different type of things on top of streaming, and they do music on top of it, like a DDG, right? I'm a little older, but this is what I'm hearing from younger people. I pay attention because I got to pay attention to what's going on. I mean, I am in my early 40s, y'all, so I'm an OG now. But it's really not about the music superstar anymore. It's more about the social media influencer / streamer / musician. So again, these people who are streaming are having these big social media platforms on YouTube and Twitch and all that. They happen to do music on top of the other things that they're doing. So it's like a whole brand, really. They're really branding themselves and doing a variety of different things that they're talented at, or they're taking advantage of their virality. So that's where I think it is right now. So any musicians or up and coming musicians that are watching this video right now, or you guys might catch me on the replay, something to really think about and how you market yourself. Think about this. We're not in the age of the music superstar anymore. And if you think differently, let me know in your comments. If you still think we're in the age of the music superstar, name one younger music superstar in R&B and hip hop right now that's super huge over the last 5 years. That's bigger than a Beyonce, that's bigger than a Drake, that's bigger than a Kendrick, that's bigger than a Breezy. I bet you can't name one. But if you can think of somebody that's bigger than them, put it in the comments. But I bet that you can't, though, because I pretty much pay attention to everybody that's coming out, and there's nobody bigger than those people. And at this point in time, and they've been out. These people have been out now for a long time, 15 years, 20 years, or close to 20 years, maybe not quite 20 years. Chris Brown's coming up on, he's getting close to 20 years, I think. So it's really the end of that era, the end of the music superstar era, and now the rise of social media influencer era. So now, in order for you to be big on music, you have to be a dominant social media influencer on top of it. Nowadays, it's not enough just for you to be the musician. Granted, there is some people that just do music, maybe they're on like Spotify playlists and they have like a niche following, but a lot of these people, you won't even really know much about them. They're very low key. Maybe they got a couple million Spotify listeners, but they're not famous like that. And it's hard to really call them a superstar. And I won't say who they are because I don't want to offend anybody, but everybody knows that person that got a couple million Spotify listeners, but they're not really superstar like that. People don't really know. A lot of people still don't know who they are. Even some of the people that listen to these Spotify playlists still don't even know the artist that they're listening to because they're just popping on a playlist, right? And they're just letting that playlist run, and they don't even know sometimes what they're listening to. So that's another thing. Yeah, so it's crazy like that. But yeah, so right now, the musicians, producers, the singers, because that's most of my audience on YouTube is aspiring musicians, people trying to get their songs out there and trying to get a buzz. I'm challenging y'all right now. Stop thinking about stop thinking about getting a record deal. Switch that mindset. It's not about the record deal anymore. It's literally about becoming the social media influencer / streamer. You got to become dominant on social media to become a superstar now. And that's just the way that it is. What's good? Somebody, you say Chris Brown is where he needs to be. Yeah, I don't know that. It's not up to me to judge that. So again, people have, going to have an emotional opinion about Chris Brown. But I'll say this, I don't know anything about the stuff that he's done or hasn't done. So I'm not here to judge anybody. I'm just basically saying that people like him are a target, right? So he's a target because he's successful. He's also a target because he's been in trouble in the past. So that's something to think about, is if you have a past, everybody has to hear this out. The thing people drill celebrities about is, their business is on Front Street. So anytime that they make a mistake, the whole world gets to see it. The whole world. A lot of other people who are not famous, nobody knows our secrets, right? Nobody knows our secrets like that. If we're not on that level, hopefully, I hope I don't get to that level where people are digging in my closet, right? Like, people have things in their closet, where it's like, Yeah, like I said, I like Chris Brown. I think, like many of us, I come from a similar background as far as a troubled childhood where I've seen my mom get, unfortunately, I don't even want to get into that, but just know that I've seen abuse and all that kind of stuff. It's terrible. I know he's come from a similar, background like that where he might have PSTD, and so that's not an excuse to do bad things. But I'm not going to be a judge of what he has or hasn't done. You know what I mean? But that's just not what I believe. God's gonna judge us for what we've done. So, I don't answer to no man. I answer to God. You know what I mean? So, at the same token, I'm not gonna try to judge people that I don't know. And I think we make a mistake when we try to judge people that we don't really know. We don't know everything, and we don't know them personally. I don't know him personally, so who am I to say whether he's a good or bad guy? I don't know, but I like his music. His music is dope. He's a great artist. He's a great musician. So, but I will stick up for him on the side that I know that he's a target, right? So it's real easy to throw people under the bus that we don't know. But imagine that Chris Brown is your brother. Imagine that he was your relative. You're going to want to get the truth, right? It's easy to always just throw people under the bus, but I'm saying that he's a target. So he's not, he might not be guilty in this situation. Yeah. So he has a right to, you know, a fair trial, right? Let's say, put it this way. If you were in the club and somebody rolls up on you, says that they're going to hurt you or they're going to attack you, what happens? What happens is you go into fight or flight, right? There's somebody's threatening you. Then you go into fight or flight, and then sometimes you have no choice but to protect yourself, and you know what I mean? And the people that maybe you're there with somebody. So we don't know what actually happened I'm saying for me personally, I don't know what happened at that club. I don't know. So who knows? They haven't really said anything, but it's real easy to throw stones at him because they say, oh, it's Chris Brown. You know what I mean? Hey, Jamie, thank you for the super chat. Truly appreciate that. Yeah, you said you're right. There isn't any new R&B or up and coming R&B artists. Yeah, and that hurts me because there's a lot of great musicians out there, and I believe Jamie, don't you sing as well, don't you? Because I'm pretty sure I've seen something. Maybe you sent me something. Maybe I'm wrong, but there's a lot of up and coming musicians and singers and R&B artists who are absolutely amazing, really, really talented people out there, and they're not getting the views, they're not getting the streams, and they're not getting heard like they should be, right? So it's crazy because everybody knows that one person everybody knows somebody that can sing like a Whitney Houston, like everybody has that one person that they know that can like really sing like a Whitney or like a Mariah. Or I've grew up with a couple different people that had these extraordinary voices, but they never got discovered for it. And that it hurts, right? Because those are the people that you see being like, that person should be the next star, but maybe they don't have the right management. Maybe they don't have the right people around them to push them to go for it. And so maybe they just end up not doing music at all because they just don't have the right support system. And that's unfortunate. Or sometimes you get the people that are basically posting stuff online here and there, and they're brilliant, but they just don't have the following. And they'll get comments like, man, this music's so good. I don't know why isn't this get more hits? You know what I mean? And I'm saying that there is somewhat of a resolution for it. There is. It's not easy, but somehow the people that are trying to get their music heard, you got to transition somehow into the social media influencer. You got to get good at connecting with whatever audience that watches you, or maybe you haven't started yet. So maybe you have to start posting more content that might be, connected to your music somehow, or maybe you have to offer some other kind of talent aside from the music. Maybe you're good at talking. Like for me, I like to talk a little bit. Um, Besides just making beats and singing and writing, I do like to talk about music related topics. So doing live chats with y'all that's something I like to do. But I think the next way for people to really blow up is going to be the social media influencer, the streamers. Those people are pretty much the new superstars. And if you're just tuning in now, you got the people like the Kai Cenat. I'm not even probably saying their names right, but the Kai Cenat, the DDGs, the who else is like a big streamer, like social media people? Like I know Queen Naja for like R&B. She has like the big YouTube page, and then she had like a #1 R&B album on iTunes. That's kind of my example. Is that if you can get good at being a social media influencer and you're a musician on top of it, you can get buzz around your music. You can get people to pay attention to what you're doing. So I think that's really important in this day and age, because it truly is the end of the maybe I should say the end of the machine superstar. Like the superstars that are made by the machine it's like very uncommon now. And even you can see the people that they even try to push, it still doesn't last, because you might get the people that have the record labels behind them, but even those people are not really lasting like the Drakes or the Chris Browns or the Rihanna, if you will. 'Cause Rihanna, she could still drop an album, it's still going to go double, triple platinum, right? Because she's a superstar, but she's simply just moved on. She's at a different place in her life. She's made the music that she's wanted to make. And now she's having a beautiful family life with A$AP Rocky, which is amazing. So shout out to them. I think that's amazing. I'm really happy to see somebody like her, enjoy having kids with, her and A$AP. That's a beautiful thing to see. You know what I mean? They have a beautiful family. So shout out to them. And I want to see more of that with more musicians. I want to see them get that happy finish, because the industry can be hard, but it's nice to see them have families and, have somewhat of a normal life. That's a beautiful thing. So, but, I say Rihanna, when's the last time that we got somebody as big as a Rihanna? I mean, Rihanna, she's worth over $1 billion now. So when's the last time we've got a Rihanna, or has anybody taken that place really? Not that I can think of, but I think the new way, the next Rihanna is going to have to be somebody that builds their brand on social media first. So they gotta be on YouTube. They gotta be on Instagram. They gotta be posting content that relates to their music and maybe other talents that they have, right? They got to cultivate that buzz online, and then they got to get people to somehow get into their music from that. So, or maybe they're a musician first, but on top of that music, they got to post different things on YouTube, on Twitch. They got to stream, they got to live stream. They got to do different things in order to connect with their audience, because that's the new way of doing it. So, because it's the end of the music superstar that's built by the record labels. I can't think of anybody that they have blown up in the last 5 years that's like really dominant. That's really like, I'm not going to count the people that have a couple hits. I mean, people who's dropped anything 5 years ago and is still like really, really popular right now, besides the Drakes, the Breezes, the Kendricks, the Beyoncés, besides, because those guys, like I said, they've been doing it for so long. They've been really making music for a long time. They've already had their time to really build their fan base and their dominant presence in the industry. So what I'm saying is, who's going to be the next big music superstars? And what do you guys think? I've gave my thoughts on it. What do you guys think is going to be the next way that the music superstar blows up? Do you agree with me? Do you think it's going to be through building their brand on social media, or do you think that that's pretty much it? That there's nobody that's ever going to reach, you know, reach the levels of the Beyoncés, of the Chris Browns, of the Michael Jacksons, of the Drakes, Kendricks. Do you think that that era is completely over with, or do you think social media influencers could tap into that level of stardom by, by basically by being a social media influencer on top of their music? Do you think it's possible that people can still get to that level of stardom through just being an influencer and combining their music with it? So that's kind of what I'm thinking. So yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts. And yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to chop it up with you guys about today. And if you guys anybody that hears me on the replay, make sure to include your thoughts on these topics. And pretty much I'll do a quick overview of what I talked about today. So pretty much the first thing I was talking about is how successful musician slash celebrities have targets on their back because they're worth millions of dollars. And it's a way, some people see it as a way to come up and get money, right? So, for people that have high levels of success in music, they got to be very careful, with their friends and who they spend their time around, because people see that as, they see it as maybe possibly like a easy come up, like, oh, I could throw a lawsuit on somebody like that, make a couple million, 3, 4, 5 million. And this happens every day. We see all the stuff for years now. We've all seen different things and different lawsuits that go on musicians. And that's just part of the game. So if you're going to be in that world, you got to really, really just focus on, staying out of trouble. You know what I mean? Because, so, and the second thing I was talking about is this, do you guys believe this is the end of the music superstar, the all around, massive celebrity music superstar that's like a Beyonce, that's like a Michael Jackson, a Drake, a Breezy, a Kendrick Lamar, a Mariah Carey, a Prince, like a Prince or something? Is it the end of that era? And unfortunately, I do think it's the end of that era for the traditional music superstar. I think how the music superstars were made in the 80s and 90s and the early 2000s, I think it doesn't work the same way anymore. The way that people get their media is different now. So pretty much like this, if you're not popping on social media yet, it's going to be very difficult to break through as a musician. But don't let that discourage you. I do believe you should keep putting out music, but on top of it, see what other things that you can offer on as far as social media content that you can mix in with your music. Maybe you can bring in more creative ways to present your music, add your other talents, your other skills that you have, and put them on full display on your social media, and get that as a way to attract people to your music. You got to find ways to attract people to what you got going on. And I think that's going to be the new way, is the social media influencers they're going to be the ones who do music, and they're going to be the ones to figure out how to get to those high levels. But it just won't be the traditional music superstar anymore. It's not going to be it's not really going to be the record labels breaking people like they used to. It's more so people are going to build their brands online, and then the labels are going to pay attention. Jamie, you said this is true. After a few years, it's as if you blow up and then you disappear, unless if you had a timeless hit like a Whitney or a top A-list celebrity. Yeah, I totally agree with that. There's hit songs that came out 5 years ago that I can't even remember anymore. I really don't remember the artists at all, just because, things are like a flash in the pan now. Things just go by quickly. So it's just becoming a lot harder for musicians. Well, at the same time, it's easier in some ways because we can all put a song on SoundCloud. We can all upload a video on YouTube if we have an internet connection. So we can get some kind of, you know, some kind of feedback. But the question is, how do we build like a large audience where we could sustain a career off of that? And I think that's a question that most us musicians, think of, is that how are we going to make a career off of this? How can we build this into a sustainable career? Or how can we follow in the footsteps of the people that we look up to, like a Drake, like a Beyonce, like a Michael Jackson, like a Mariah Carey, the people that's really done it at the highest level, or a Sade, or rest in peace, Aaliyah. You know what I mean? How can we ascend to those levels as musicians where people recognize our art form on that high level? And I think the way to do it really is just really, building your brand on social media and just coming up with creative ways to, bring people to your music. Sometimes that means, doing some other things on your social media to kind of bring people in. And, like I said, I've gave examples of that. Some of the popular streamers are great examples, right? They're already making millions. Some of these streamers are making more money than our favorite musicians, which is crazy to me. Some of these people are making 10, $15 million plus in a year off of streaming on Twitch and YouTube and all that. And that's absolutely insane to me. But that's the era that we live in. And then on top of it, they're releasing albums, and it's kind of like their whole, they have this whole kind of like brand that's just kind of working for them based around the social media, the live streaming, and then they're putting their music with that. And I think that's incredibly smart. And shout out to the people that's really doing that and who were the forerunners on really kind of bringing that whole brand. They're getting people to consume the whole brand. And these are not traditional superstars. These are people who are just building on, like, they started building like on a YouTube or something, and then they blow up, and then their brand becomes mainstream. Now a lot of these top YouTubers and top live streamers, they are mainstream. There's another guy, I can't think of his name right now, but there's another really popular streamer that kind of had a meteoric rise, and then basically they're able to just do everything. They can do music, they can do social media content, and they're able to do it all. And I think that's the best example that I can think of what I think is basically the new way. That's going to be the new way for everybody to really take off. And of course, everybody's not going to be able to take off from it, but I think that's the new way. So don't lose hope. If you're an up and coming musician, just know that I believe in you. I love you guys. I appreciate you. I believe that you have the ability to get your music out there and be heard and be successful beyond your wildest dreams. Anybody could do this. You just got to believe, and you got to take action. So don't give up on yourself. And I appreciate everybody tuning in with me today. I appreciate everybody in the live chat. Shout out to Jamie. Somebody loves you. Shout out to you. I appreciate all the feedback from everyone. And if you catch me on the replay, make sure you like the video, share and subscribe if you want to see more live content. And I appreciate the super chat, Jamie. And again, if anybody wants to support, you all can do the same. You guys can drop a super chat. I truly appreciate all the help. I'm a full-time musician, so everything, any of the support that I get, whether you guys are buying my beats or dropping a super chat or buying a sample pack, hey, I appreciate that. You allow me to continue to do this. I love you guys. God bless y'all. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. This is your boy, Tony Sway. Remember, you can do this. You can do this. You got this. I love y'all. Peace.